Good evening and welcome to the Spice Route. Usually with religious lessons, what is most spoken about is matters relating to the heart. However, there is also the brain side to the matter, and tonight we will be talking about the brain's chemistry. And yes, faith is a matter of the heart, that is true, and hearts find satisfaction only in the remembrance of Allah. That is also correct, and the heart is the central field. The heart will affirm, but in order to be able to affirm, there is a brain it will use. In the words of Imam Ghazali, the heart is the sultan, the mind in its totality is the vizier. This has been understood this way for the most part throughout Islamic history. Those who have approached it the other way around do in fact arrive at the same door by one means or another. If they cannot arrive, then it means they are lost anyway. We, however, are most of all still listening to the West when it comes to the brain chemistry, neurotransmitters, neural links, and so on. And there isn't any well-executed recent work on this subject in the Islamic world, because in the past, these were not separate subjects for us. Medicine, knowledge, art, science, and tasawwuf, these were one. They were expressed upon Tawheed. Now, our name, Tawheed Ojo, is a recent name, but the truth is that throughout history, this is how it has always been. There is something that we always mention about Ashab as-Sufa. Knowledge was there, science was there, art was there, and tasawwuf was there. None of these were separated from one another or from Islam. The moment you enter into the specialization, the moment you enter into taxonomy, you will be fragmented into pieces just as the Western world has done. One of the ways of not being fragmented, as you know, there is something they always say to us. Don't you use your mind, do not rent out your mind, do not sell your mind, do not let your mind be used, and so on and so forth. Very well, brother. How does the brain work? Well, a person compares some things to others, in which it is a remarkable observation of Hazrat Imam Jafar al-Sadiq. Hazrat Imam Shafi was also serious on this matter and expressed it while giving lessons to the Imams of the Madhabs. To compare is not the proportion of something that comes at the end in relation to something else. It is seeking the proportion of something within something. It is a matter of Islamic jurisprudence. Jurisprudence cannot be done by comparing one thing with another. Something is compared within something. That comparison and this comparison is not the same thing. They are mixing that up too. We move on, and we have now come to this point. Okay, brother, what are you basing this on? You say, according to my mind, right? Okay, so what is the mind? How do the things in the brain work? How has this been explained to you until today? It has been explained like this. Someone speaks to you, yes, it comes to this head, good. Then something else comes, okay, very good. Then the person compares this with his experience and chooses what is correct. This makes sense when raising animals, okay? Because for an animal, in the story of Pavlov's dogs, the bell rings, you give food. The bell rings, you give food. The bell rings and the animal salivates. This is normal for an animal. Why doesn't someone come forward and try the same thing on a human being? Let the bell ring and give food. Let the bell ring and give food. And let the bell ring once again. Does a human being salivate because you're going to give food? The very reason they are forced to explain it through animals is Banu Israel. Darwinism. They have no other option. Because according to their creed, no one except them is human. According to that man's creed, you and I are not human beings anyway. They are human. We are a different species. So young people should be able to see this. Sometimes they watch certain videos. They say, there are lucid dreams, lucid this and that certain species came from different forms and so on. Brother, this is simply a fantasy born from the paradigm that lies behind Darwinism. In other words, it is a fantastical story. Brother, this is technically not possible. The reason is this. When the mind is deciding on if something is correct or not, how many years of experience did it have that it is able to do this? Also, it is now scientifically known that the mind is not a decision-making mechanism, and that has only recently become known. This isn't being talked about, but the guy says, you are constantly coming along through continuous learning. And I'm telling you a very clear sentence. Let it be a concise point, since it would otherwise be long. If I were to arrive at this point through learning alone, my lifespan would need to be 5,000 years. Give me 5,000 years. To reach this state of mind through learning alone, one lifetime is not enough. It is not enough in any way. It is not enough for any of us. So, what is this brain doing? Look, this brain is doing something very interesting. This brain has a chemistry. The chemistry of the entire body changes through direct interaction from outside, because the essence of the structure we call the nerve cell, if you look at the nerve cell, I'm going to explain it in very rough terms so we can all understand. The nerve cell is an antenna. In what sense? Every moment you live, your brain is a continuous data acquisition zone. One of the greatest pieces of evidence for this is that, even now, through studies being carried out on the human mind, properties capable of altering certain chemical functions can be imparted to people's minds. The simplest way to explain this is as follows. It's a very classic scenario. The man's brain chemistry triggers a massive release of painkillers whilst he's in the MRI scanner, and his pain always subsides as soon as he steps out. What I mean is that they send someone for an MRI for his back pain, and as he gets up from the MRI, he'd say something like, "I feel better already." An intense electromagnetism causes different things to happen. Ultimately, what we call the nervous system is affected from the outside. Let me explain it more physically. There are audio cables in front of me. If I were to place a high voltage power source next to them, you wouldn't be able to hear this sound. You'd hear crackling. If you press it even further, you won't be able to see anything, because whether there is an electric current, apart from the current, there is also a reception. Okay? I mean, the reason these cables are covered is not just so we don't get electrocuted, but also for the data passing through them to be protected. Because when there is no insulation on the cable, even if you don't touch the bare wire, all the voltage coming from outside directly changes everything about the current. Now, we're getting to this point. So, how does this brain chemistry work? Now, while we head towards that question, I will now go to a few verses in the Noble Quran first, and then we'll come back. If we can meet at the point of what changes this brain chemistry, let's see in that final part whether we'll reach an understanding. Now, in the Noble Quran, Allah Almighty makes the following statement in Surah Fussilat in the 44th verse. وَلَوْ جَعَلْنَاهُ قُرْآنًا أَجَمِيًّا لَقَالُوا. And if we had sent this as a Quran in a foreign language other than Arabic, they would have said, why are its verses not clearly explained? Is this Arabic foreign? Meaning, there is a foreignness here. It should have been explained. Say, Allah says, it is a guidance and a healing for those who believe. So, Allah Almighty is saying that the Prophet ﷺ, being an Arab, had I not revealed the Noble Quran I sent down to the Arabs in Arabic, they would have said, well, this came in a foreign language. Now, the same thing is being said among us too. So, this was revealed to the Arabs, some say. Allah Almighty says, say to them, to those believers, it is a guidance and a healing for those who have confirmed it, who have affirmed it in their hearts. This verse itself is proof that all of us are in need of reading the Quran even without knowing Arabic. It is an important proof, so whether you know its meaning or not, it is a guidance and healing. But how? The answer is coming now. وَالَّذِينَ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ فِي آذَانِهِمْ وَقْرٌ. And as for those who disbelieve, there is heaviness in their ears. Allah did not say mind. He's talking about sound. Adhana. The word adhan and adhan are the same word. Ear, sound, hearing. They are all exactly the same. Now, this is where the matter begins. Allah Almighty says, and it is for them blindness. وَهُوَ عَلَيْهِمْ أَمًّا. Such people are being called from a distant place. Now, Allah Almighty is linking what is heard with blindness. He says, for you, this is a source of guidance and healing. Whether this Quran is being recited, whether you are reading it or listening to it, it makes no difference. This is a guidance for you. In other words, it opens the mind. The simplest or most basic equivalent of hidayah, which is guidance, is that it opens a new door for a person. This is what guidance actually is. Hidayah is not really an Islamic term. It has been declared very openly in Islamic terms. This is the exact point where Western philosophy gets stuck. When the Western world, when Rome encountered the Noble Quran, the philosophical world lost its mind over this. How does a book define itself as guidance? Because the Western world had never heard this from either the Bible or the Torah, from their distorted versions, and in fact, these verses in particular had been removed, because the West defines guidance like this. It defines it the same way it defines it for you today. You will read and read and read, and you will learn to distinguish right from wrong, but a lifetime isn't enough for distinguishing right from wrong. So how does this man make this decision on top of all of that? Experience, he says. Then how does he do something completely new? We call this guidance. They say it happens through experience, and we say no. It has been clearly declared in the Noble Quran's own words that what we hear through our ears becomes a means to our guidance and our healing. Why are guidance and healing declared together? The last intended meaning of the healing declared here is the body. The first intended meaning is this: a person's ability to solve any problem that he encounters is healing for that person. The word shifa here used for healing is also mistranslated in some languages. The tire went flat. Right as you're standing there with your flat tire thinking, what am I going to do now? A man walks by and he says, hey, I'm a tire repairman, and Allah brought us together. Wait, let me handle it. That is your healing, and by this definition, the person who solves your problem in that moment is called a healer. This is why guidance and healing are related. So, a person has a problem they've encountered in life. The point where you say, this fits neither what I've read, nor what I've lived, nor my experience. Here, the thing both the West is searching for and the thing I am searching for is guidance. In other words, the man who invented ChatGPT has attained guidance. In what sense? There is a problem or an innovation he wants to solve in his mind. He thinks and thinks and thinks and thinks. Then suddenly a guidance occurs, meaning he produces a solution that no one else has thought of. And for that, he receives healing. So what is this? Allah Almighty says, adhana. You know the adhan. The word adhan means that which is heard. Adhana means ear, and then a verse will come. At the same time, the word idhan in Arabic, meaning permission, which we use with Allah's permission, is the same word. That will come at the end. Now, Allah Almighty says, because they do not believe, there is a heaviness in the ears of those who do not believe. So, once that incoming sound of the Noble Quran enters through the ear, It saves a person from blindness and causes 7,000 chemical substances in your neurotransmitters to be produced in different ways at different times. The chemicals produced look at what the person is searching for. Whatever is needed, the healing for that area begins to come. Let me put what I'm describing to you this way. You are a carpenter. Go to Egypt, go to Iraq. In all four corners of the world, more so in Muslim countries, the Quran never stops playing on the tape. So the radio is on, the Quran is playing. Whatever car you get into, whichever taxi you take, and so on, in Egypt, in Iraq, in Syria, etc. There is no other sound. You constantly hear this sound. This is how a carpenter works. Whatever problem the man is facing or experiencing, the chemicals produced in his mind to address that problem are shaped accordingly. In other words, they are shaped according to the body's needs. Just for this reason, what did the Western world do? They said, since what we hear develops our mind. At its simplest, they tell you, have your children listen to Mozart while still in the womb. Okay, the reason is this. Mozart is mechanical, and let's say you need a mechanically working donkey. There is a mechanical rhythm in Mozart. There isn't a dynamic rhythm. So play Mozart to them, make them listen to it again and again and again. When they come out, you'll have a brilliant worker. Do you want to produce an amazing rebel? So you go, as you see in the Flower Children, in a New Age style, and use an expression that is again mechanical within itself, but somewhat more spatial. All of the biochemicals in you are producing a desire for drugs and alcohol. So is the whole world in agreement on this? A person can develop a desire for alcohol and drugs because of the music they listen to, or a desire to work can form within them. If they are doing sports, they become motivated. We are in agreement on this, right? So how and why? It is a simple matter. My brain, with every signal it receives according to the sound it takes in, draws and extracts something from the materials at its disposal in response to that signal. All the way from the stocks that come from its genetics, it produces new molecules made of nitrogen and oxygen for you. This molecule is used wherever it is needed, so these are matters very much related to your profession. Now, I'll say something else that is also very interesting. Allah Almighty does not say their ears are blocked. He says there is a heaviness upon them. He does not say they do not hear. Look, in another place, he will say they do not hear. That is a matter of the heart. Here, there is a very physical word. Adhana, he says. In their ears, there is a heaviness. That is why blindness forms in them. So, what we have been trying to explain for years is this. As long as the kalima tawhid is spoken on earth, as long as the adhan is recited, as long as the Quran is recited, the day of judgment will not come. There are many reasons for this. One of the reasons is this. The reason a person on earth discovers something is this. The sound of the adhan that still hasn't ceased on earth, and the sound of the noble Quran. Because even in that person, since there is a heaviness in his ear, even if he does not believe, it is still affecting his neurotransmitters. It is just that that person has become very intensely focused on that subject, money, wealth, and so on. And this is what comes about. I will say this at the end, but there is a truth. The sound and call of the noble Quran. In fact, one of the reasons the Islamic world has objected to the microphone is this. And I am not saying this because I am against it. The fundamental mechanism of that objection is this. Is the human voice and the sound that comes out of a microphone the same or not? It is not the same. This microphone converts mine into electricity and delivers it at a different frequency. This is not my actual voice. The sound you hear is very similar, but you cannot distinguish it. It is not the same sound. That is why the Islamic scholars say, will a person be able to activate the same brain by listening to this sound or not? The answer: it will not be able to activate it exactly in the same way, because it is not the same sound. Now look, we will go to another verse. In the 5th verse of Surah Fussilat, Allah Almighty says, they said, our hearts are veiled from that to which you invite us. So that's what the disbelievers said. You are inviting us, but our hearts are veiled. The verse continues, وَفِي آذَانِنَا وَقْرٌ, and there is heaviness in our ears. Between us and you there is a veil, a hijab. So you do whatever you want, for we too are doing what we do. So you act as you act. فَأْمَلُوا إِنَّنَا عَامِلُونَ. You act as you act, and we act as we act, for there is a screen between us and you. The reason for the screen is this. Yes, after the heart believes and affirms, the nerve cells in the brain are able to form very strong connections while producing neurotransmitters. If it does not believe, the connection strength is very low. This looks like the following. You come out of a surgery. They give you a painkiller and they say, use this only now. The reason? This is something that cuts the pain completely. Normally, your headache aches, your arm aches. Be patient. If you see it is not getting better, start with something simple. So, the dosage. There is a hijab. Look, there is a veil. Do you know what hijab is? That which reduces what passes through it, but does not eliminate it entirely, is called hijab. So, for example, this is a hijab, a covering. If I were to wear something instead of what I'm wearing right now that allows no breathing at all, so zero oxygen going in, zero anything coming out, there are such jackets. We cannot call that hijab in this sense. That through which air passes, that through which sound passes, but which has strong cutting properties, that is called hijab. So, our first word here is this. What we hear, what comes through the ear, is the expression adhana. Now, where this will go, we will see. It is not only what comes through the ear, but also the distribution of that sound in the space where it is being recited. Let me explain it this way. The shapes and physiognomy of all the organs that exist by creation in the human body are the foundation of their working principles. So, the liver was not placed there simply because, as biologists tell you, it sits best in that space, in that position. So it is not a case of, if we put this here this way, this will fit here. The structure of the head, however, is like this. Pay attention. It functions as a receiver. Even today, the best receivers we produce are spherical receivers. They distribute from one side and collect from the other, because the current state of the brain is the one with which we can achieve the best dispersion. Even if we were to produce a normal device, the function that allows us the best dispersion and the best collection is the sphere function. But the face will not be round. The reasons for this lie deep. Now let's move on. Let's go to this verse. The 16th verse of Surah Al-Ma'idah. Allah Almighty says, Allah grants guidance to those who seek His pleasure. He brings them out of darkness into light by His permission and guides them to the straight path. It is a noble verse revealed for all Muslims. I repeat. Allah Almighty says, Allah grants guidance to those who seek His pleasure. He brings them out of darkness into light by His permission and guides them to the straight path. So, what is the word used? مِنَ الظُّلُمَاتِ إِلَى النُّورِ بِإِذْنِهِ. There can be no greater quality than the noble Quran coming in Arabic. In no language in the world can hearing and delivering be expressed within the same word. Adhan means that which is delivered. Adhana means your ear. Idhin means that what has been delivered to you brings something into being within you. What you hear changes you. If the one who makes it heard to you opens it within you, bi'idhnillah, by the permission of Allah. So idhin was sound, it was the ear. So what does bi'idhnillah mean? It means that for what has arrived in you to be able to transform and open up, Allah must open that sound within you. What does it mean when you go to an older brother or an elder and ask for permission? You have decided on an action. You say, "Sir, I have something to attend to this afternoon. Would you permit me to handle it without cutting into my working hours?" In other words, do you know what I'm asking for? In order for me to be able to do that thing, I need the sound of an acceptance coming from him. What would you say if the man made no movement at all? No sound came from him, nothing happened. You ask, did he give permission? No. How did you understand that? He did not respond. I didn't hear anything. What is needed? What I am asking for needs to be told to me by that person. I am the one asking. He is not commanding me to go somewhere this afternoon. He is going to give me permission. In response to what I am asking of him, what is it that I wanted to hear from him? Yes, you may go, bi'idhnillah. However, the idhn, the permission of Allah, is this. Look, the word he uses here is transition from darkness to light. What is light? Light is the foundation of all humanity's sources of knowledge. That is to say, what the Freemasons and the world seek to reach is light, nur. That is where all the ball of knowledge resides, and so they'd like to reach that place. Allah Almighty says, "It is I who will bring you out of that darkness and lead you to guidance. And that is only if you are living according to my pleasure, bi'idhnihi, by my permission. It is something that can only happen by his permission." Now, let us come to the verse in Surah At-Tawbah, and this is the last verse. In relation to the meaning of this word, Allah Almighty says, "And it is an announcement from Allah and His Messenger to the people on the day of the greater pilgrimage that Allah is disassociated from the disbelievers, and so is His Messenger." So both Allah and His Messenger are apart from them. So if you repent, that will be better for you. But if you turn away, then know well that you will not render Allah powerless, and give tidings to those who disbelieve of a painful punishment. Now, in the word Allah Almighty uses here, وَأَذَانٌ مِنَ اللَّهِ. It is an announcement from Allah and His Messenger to the people, he says. And now the word adhan has appeared. So, now let us gather and summarize this point. We see that what changes a person's brain chemistry is what they hear. Among these, only those belonging to Allah's pleasure are a source of guidance for him. What he hears outside of that, if he continues following his nafs, neurons will be produced according to that. If not, different chemicals will be produced. In that case, we have now arrived here. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ commanded us of the following: "Either be the one who conveys knowledge or the one who listens. Do not be the third." Why? Because there are only 3 places where the mind and chemistry of a human being changes. Either you will be in a gathering of knowledge, there Allah is spoken of, the Prophet is spoken of, or you will be in a gathering of dhikr. There too, Allah and the name of the Prophet is mentioned, or you will be in a gathering of love, that is, you will be in the presence of the one who tells you this truth, in the presence of the Prophet, in the presence of the awliya, in the presence of the scholars. Because the human mind has no other chance of producing these chemicals. Now, the interesting thing is this. Some of our brothers hold the following thought: "Oh, I have listened to this lesson 3,000 times. I'm giving an example. So there is a topic and you know the man will explain the same thing. You say, why are we even going there? Is it not to learn something? Friends, learning something from a gathering of knowledge happens at the exit. While you are inside, you do not learn anything. While you are inside, the chemicals in your brain are being gathered and compiled. At the exit, you begin to digest it. While doing it, you begin to digest it. While beginning to apply it, you work. While you are inside, only your chemicals are changing. And what happens when those chemicals change? This much is a fact. We talk about these now, do we not? We talk about Alzheimer has increased, dementia has increased, this has increased, and that has increased. By Allah, there is a truth as such. In our time, in our childhood, the thing our elders made obligatory for us was to go to the lesson of the scholars. Whether there was homework or a test to study for or whatever else, they couldn't have cared less. Tonight, at this hour, at this place, there is a lesson by the scholar. We are going. You are a child, and the thought crosses your mind. Well, this scholar has been going over and over the same verse for 3 weeks. I have memorized it now, I know it. But now we are learning this. This matter has an angel's aspect, as well as a spiritual blessing aspect. Allah is present in that gathering of knowledge and so on. Look, I am not going into the spiritual aspect. I am speaking entirely from physical conditions. You are listening to the same thing looks like this. Just because you have had the same lentil soup 3,000 times in your life, why do you not refuse the 3,000th? 1, you love it. 2, you know it meets your need. So why do you not object to those who explain this to you? If this matter was finished simply by learning it, why do you keep teaching me addition and subtraction mathematics starting from the same place year after year for 16 years? Because even in knowledge, there is a record showing that repetition allows matters to settle in the human mind. The man says, yes, this is a topic we explain again at the beginning of every school year, but let it be reinforced. So, what purpose does reinforcement serve? Because the same chemical spreads again. It starts again, it starts again. And the chemicals of human beings do not belong to today. If they belong to tomorrow, they produce abnormality. Do you know what that means? The difference in these chemicals is the means of our different functioning. That is to say, all people's intelligence is the same. All of it is the same. There is no difference. One person is not mentally behind and another ahead. What differentiates them is the chemistry inside the brain. Medicine says this today as well. People are only searching for what this chemistry is. Take this, they say. Take NAD, NAQ, NADH. They say increase nitrogen, increase oxygen. Why? Because nitrogen and oxygen. So how is nitrogen formed? It is possible through sudden flashes in the electromagnetic system, that is, in the flow of electricity, and this only happens in a gathering of knowledge. So, when matters belonging to the Arabic Quran, truth, and the afterlife are explained, something can come into being within a person. Now, turn to this. The scholars of Islam, the awliya, there are the 40-day seclusions they enter, right? Brother, you could do that seclusion here too. Why do you do it there? You do it there for this reason. The matter is this. Because when you go, you say, I will not speak a single word of worldly talk. So I will not get the chemicals mixed. I will focus entirely here. This will be the only thing I await. Let me also explain it like this. For 3 years, there has been a new trend in California. You can search it up on the internet and look. Purple light days in a cave. The people discovered this. The people we work with in America were also doing this. The man takes you and puts you in a cave for a weekend. 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, 7 days. They say, something changes in those who enter this cave. Okay, we accept that. I have found purple light, one said. Yes, so what do? We put purple light inside the cave. Yes, and they lock the man in there for 3 days. No food, nothing. The man comes out and really does say something different. He says, "How does this happen?" Well, there is a simple thing. You are separating yourself. In the place where you separate yourself, the chemical formation begins to stabilize. So you are always working on the same area. What does it look like? You go to the gym. Instead of constantly working on different machines, one day the man says to you, "Brother, for 7 days you will do only this movement on this machine." It could be because you are going to enter a competition or something like that. Brother, that will develop, of course. You are working on that specific area. Do you know what the problem is? After that, psychological depression begins, obsession begins. What is the reason? One area has become very strong, the other area is collapsing. There is nothing other than Islam that can stabilize all of them. Let me tell you an even more interesting study. A rabbi, a priest, an imam, a monk. That is, in a place where a congregation gathers, including corrupted religions. A man has a single duty, right? Whether he is a monk, a priest, or whatever, he will come and he will sing his hymn there or give a sermon. He will perform baptism or do whatever. Now, these people are focused on a single task. There are psychological studies conducted on all of these people. In each of them, a separate psychological problem was published under the name of occupational disease. What is the reason? The man is obsessive because he is focused on a single subject in his life. For example, in priests, the word love is used so much, especially in the Catholic community. To love, let's love. Let's love Jesus. Let's love Christ. Christ loves us. Love, 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 love. Brother, a deprivation of love begins because another area remains very weak. There is no hell, there is no pain. They love. What they love, why they love, you do not know, because there is no pain on the other side. You go to the rabbi, a different obsession. You go to a monk and something else. Under normal conditions, this does not happen only with imams, because only in your book there is life from A to Z. There is hell, there is paradise, there is the world, there is yesterday, tomorrow, today. There is you, your family, your congregation, there is the hypocrite, there is the polytheist. There are degrees among your own believers. There are the close ones, the affirmers, those who receive their book from the right, those who do not go back on their word. There are the transgressors and so on. Human types have been arranged in such a way that everything regarding every realm is in this book. That is why the chemicals produced in the mind are distributed very gently, spreading very normally. Under normal conditions, no occupational disease appears in any of them. Now, in plain terms, I'm coming to this point. We must understand this. The very lowest level of our effort to be inseparably present in gatherings of knowledge, gatherings of dhikr, and right beside our elders is to be forgiven. The very lowest level is to learn something. The very lowest level is to begin changing something. Whereas, far beyond all of these, Allah Almighty is placing something more into our heads in every gathering we attend. In plain terms, whether you listen to the same sermon not 300 times, but 5,000, 10,000 times, it does not change. It produces chemicals accordingly, and there is something even more interesting. For example, Hazrat Yahya ibn Mu'adh once gave the same sermon 70 times. 70. An amazing, venerable person called Yahya ibn Mu'adh gives the same sermon more than 70 times. While he was giving his sermon, some people even had heart attacks. There are many such great scholars in history. He went so deep, and such a thing happened to the people that a spiritual state came over them. Some even died. Now, he gets up. 1, 2, 3, 4. Brother, can the same sermon be given 75 times? One of them hesitates to ask, but Hazrat Yahya ibn Mu'adh understands. Is it possible not to understand? You are repeating the same sermon. The congregation of that time is not like the congregation of today either. They understand the difference. They are aware that he is explaining the same thing. They didn't have their phones in their hands and nothing in their minds. He says, every time you come, I look to see whether that thing has been corrected or not, both on the practical side and on the spiritual side. So, has it changed or not? It hasn't changed. Still 2 more people remain, 3 more people remain, 1 more remains. Because if this does not change, what I will give after this will have no chemistry to work with. So I will first have you take this medicine, so that the medicine I give you after this will be of use. Buying sports shoes for a person who has no leg or whose leg has been amputated is an insult. The man has no leg. Can you take him sports shoes, so to speak? No, because the man has no leg. Now, you are going to give that to society, but the poor man has no limb to use that with. You first need to put that limb there. They may be explaining the same thing, but what is happening is not the same. Be certain of this. In the man who listens to that sermon, to that lesson, for the 70th time, something different happens again at the 70th. Therefore, our not separating from these gatherings, may Allah not separate us from them. May we all be either listeners or conveyors, inshallah, because otherwise our intelligence in this world will not change. It should be known that the time of knowledge is after the Asr, the afternoon prayer. There is no specific hour of the day. It is every single day. That is, every single day Muslims are there after the afternoon prayer. Why? Between the afternoon prayer and the evening prayers, there are no voluntary prayers. You would pray the afternoon prayer and there would be a gap until the evening. You cannot sleep. It is the time of karaha. So there is only one thing you can do, and that is the most important thing you have, the gathering of knowledge. You will listen, you will read the Quran, you will hear, you will renew. A person who listens to this lesson, one of our brothers, let him write down the same lesson. Let him gather 5 friends at his home and do it again. Brother, reproduce it. So take this as a yeast and produce it again, produce it again, produce it again and again, because my brain is in need of this. Look, I have not entered the spiritual side at all. Angels would come, repentance would occur, we would be forgiven of our sins. I am not going into any of that, but we are in need of the repetition of this same matter. Of course, in the course of time, people also arrived at this point. I need to explain that too. They arrived here. In a certain segment of society, the following expression emerged. Now, there is a new generation, a new young generation coming. As you may have noticed, there are many young brothers and sisters giving lessons in many places on fiqh, hadith, etc. Some are around my age and some are even younger. May Allah be pleased with them. Now, society looks at them like this. Well, they are young. Now, let me remind you of a truth. Throughout history, all the scholars you can name gave their sermons at roughly between 14 and 20 years of age. We are even late. The first lesson of Hazrat Abdul Qadir Jilani to a large congregation was at 15 years of age. Yahya ibn Mu'adh addressed people at 17, 18 years of age. Imam Shafi was 18, 19. He was a great scholar at 18 anyway. But what they told you on television is this. A legitimate teacher, a legitimate scholar must be at least 60, 70 years old. That is how it was told. His hair and beard must have turned white, right? However, in actuality, when that person actually reaches 60, 70 years of age, his real duty is to watch the young person coming up to the pulpit from below and point out his shortcomings. So, the matters we are experiencing right now. You did it wrong, you said it incompletely, you gave the wrong name, you did not express the hadith correctly. There is also a deficiency in your eloquence. This is his duty. This is his actual matter, because he has raised that young person and placed him there. For that reason, get this out of your heads. Throughout Islamic history, those who took to the pulpit were between 18 and 30 years of age. After age 30, he gradually tries to bring that other young person forward. That is how it should be. So the man will take to the pulpit at 20, and with that enthusiasm and excitement, he will give that struggle and you will correct him. So when you see these young names today and say, these are still young, dear brother, this is how Islamic history is anyway. This is not a profession you can carry out with the energy at old age anyway. The elders, the senior figures of that work, become the ones who still correct that young person. This is how it's been in Islamic history. So I thought I would express this at some point, because in Islamic society, let's say there is a lesson somewhere. There's a mentality that tries to approach the matter according to age and seniority. That too is normal, because it is something that has been taught. I am not saying this because it is a fault of society. Do not misunderstand, but even today, it is still the custom in our mosques, in Turkey for example. So you need to have passed 50 years of age to give a lesson in the Grand Mosque. Brother, put a young person of 20, 25 years old up in the Grand Mosque and then see how the matters change. Let's return to normal now. Let our hujjas, our teachers, be the ones who correct our young people. Because do you know what will happen when the pulpits are filled with young people? The inside will also be young. The young will come to the young. But the man does not want this. Why? You two come and fill the mosque after retirement. If the one giving the lesson has passed 60 years of age, the one listening will also have passed 60. We will soon be reading the Mawlid for this uncle anyway. What is this uncle going to change? May Allah be pleased with all of them, but what can we do in history? The history of Islam grows through the young. It changes through the young. When the Messenger of Allah ﷺ migrated with his companions, the average age of the companions was 22. Children who had not yet reached the height of an arrow were requesting to come to battle. Therefore, it is worthwhile to approach the matter this way, because we are in need of this brain chemistry. We are not a nation without a mind. We are not a nation that does not use its mind either. We are a community whose chemicals in the mind have become deficient, diminished, and through the means of staying away from gatherings of knowledge, have turned into this state. Because the noble companions were in a gathering of knowledge 7 days a week. Now we struggle to manage once a week. Then we bring it up to once a month, then once a year. The mentality we say will not work is exactly this mentality. Take care.